And let's begin. Why, hello everyone and welcome. So continuing on in Mac versus Windows versus Linux. Today we're going to be taking a look at, well, web browsers. There's a good chance if you're using a computer at some point, you're going to be accessing the internet.
You might be doing that right now to watch us.
That is probably more likely than not. So to start off, we're going to be taking a look at Mac Osx Mojave and see what web browser, well, is built into the operating system. So we have Trevor's MacBook Pro here, and if you don't know, on macOS, your native web browser is Safari.
Yeah, Safari right here.
So, and some people like Safari, some people don't. Honestly, in today's standards, it works pretty well. Additionally though, people can install a plethora of other web browsers.
Yeah, like I prefer Google Chrome myself, so that my web browser of choice is Google Chrome. And then bringing this up, we can see some of the other popular web browsers for Mac OS. However, some of these are a little
yeah. So like Firefox, you can
get Firefox. I know like my girlfriend loves Firefox. I'm not so much of a Firefox fan myself.
Me, I'm not.
But some people are. Safari, Google Chrome, like we said, Opera you can get. I know Opera is actually very popular as well. I did use Opera for a little while. Reminds me of Chrome, to be honest. It's
little
similar.
bit, yeah.
Internet Explorer, that hasn't been on Mac since 2003. So that's not really a good Chromium. I know you. You can get Chromium.
Chromium works. So that's good. So I mean, all in all, your most popular web browsers are on macOS, which is good. Safari is a decent web browser to start off, but a lot of people, like Google Chrome or whatever.
I don't like Safari, I'm sorry.
And that's fine. Anyway, let's jump though to Windows. All right, so now in Windows, we have a couple different web browsers built in.
Yeah.
So there obviously is Internet Explorer. Don't know why Internet Explorer is still on Windows, because we have Microsoft Edge now on Windows. And what's your opinion with Edge?
I actually like Edge.
You do?
I do. Okay, this is where I will try not to be biased whatsoever. But when I worked for Microsoft, we had a lot of tools that required Internet Explorer still to work for our own internal tools, which they admit is a problem. So there's a lot, and look, even if you don't work for a company like Microsoft that makes the product, in your own work, I know in other jobs I've had, there are just some things that only work on Internet Explorer for some reason. That's an overall problem, especially because I have a little bit of insight on this, which I can share. Internet Explorer is going to be discontinued by next year. I don't know if that's public information, but I was not in any type of non-disclosure for that. That was why Edge came out to replace it, since Internet Explorer is still on Windows 10.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not entirely surprised that Internet Explorer is being discontinued, but that's regardless of the point. Now, what other web browsers do we actually have available on Windows 10?
So, of course, you have like your Chrome, which I'm going to go into right now and take a look at this list. But you got your Firefox, Google Chrome, like we said, Internet Explorer, Opera, Edge. We talked about Safari. You can download. Don't really recommend that one on Windows.
Yeah, I don't think on Windows it's really fully optimized.
No.
It's probably an older version of Safari, so whether or not it's relevant in today's world, probably not.
You got Chromium again, and then you got your plethora of other third-party web browsers, just like Mac OS has.
The point to be made with this though, and this kind of is with Windows and with Mac OS, is they have their proprietary web browser, and their proprietary web browser isn't ideal. Safari, in my opinion, works well on Mac. Not saying it's the best one, but it works well on Mac. However, on the Windows side of things, you could get Safari, but it's probably going to suck. And vice versa when it comes to like Internet Explorer, especially with Internet Explorer like 9 only being available on Mac.
Before that even, it's a really old version of Internet Explorer.
Exactly, so that's absolutely no good. But your more popular Firefox, Google Chrome, it's available on Windows.
Yeah.
So let's now jump to Linux. All right, so in Linux, what web browser do we have available? Unlike Mac and Windows, Linux typically does not come with its own proprietary browser, especially in Ubuntu. In Ubuntu, we have Firefox.
Yep.
And what other web browsers can we download?
Take a look here. We got Firefox, Google Chrome, Chromium, Opera. So we got some of the major ones there, and then of course you have your third-party, browsers.
Yeah, so all in all, I mean, for the web browsers that are popular, you're going to be able to get them across the board, which is good. For better or for worse, Ubuntu, general Linux distros don't have their own proprietary web browser, so they are relying on Firefox and other, browser manufacturers, browser companies, whatever. The only thing that could be bad about that is if Firefox releases a really bad update and no one likes Firefox, well, all of a sudden now we're gonna have a pretty crappy web browser built into the operating system. But, you know, you can still download like Chrome or another web browser, so it's really not an issue. So with that said, do you have anything else to mention in terms of web browsers?
No, not really.
Yeah, I mean, you got your major ones, and that's good.
Yeah.
All right, so now that we have shown off some of the web browsers, we're going to be doing some benchmarking of web browsers. Now, obviously, every web browser is going to act slightly different. However, Google Chrome, which is across the board on Linux, on Windows, on Mac, so that's what we're going to be using. And we're going to be going on to, what is it?
Basemark.
Basemark.com. They have a Web 3.0 benchmarking tool, and it seems to be doing some really comprehensive testing. So we're going to be running the test, and we'll see what score we get. Right now, we're on Mac OS. All right, so we have the benchmark all fired up.
Yep.
Trevor's going to hit start, and I'm going to also record the time.
Okay, count me down.
3, 2, 1.
This is a very interesting test.
Most certainly. We are about 10 seconds in. 4 tests have been done so far.
Now, the real goal behind this test is just to see how the other operating systems do with the same web browser. Now, there is something to be said that Chrome might not be as supported on one platform to the other, so we'll kind of see as well. But the real goal here is to see if there's any major operating system differences using the same software.
Yeah, because, I mean, even to look at Mac OS. Mac OS is fully optimized between hardware and software, and that's something you might not be able to say about other hardware and software combinations.
Yeah.
So we'll see how, you know, Google Chrome is going to do on every different OS.
One thing I don't know if you guys can hear, but I do find it interesting that it is using enough computer resources that I'm hearing the fan spin up on the MacBook.
Very
which
true.
I will tell you, if you have a MacBook, you know that's a rare occurrence because Apple does not like their fan spinning up. They do everything they can to avoid fans spinning up.
Very true.
616.01.
So we got 616 as our score in 3 minutes, 5 seconds, 0.59. So 3 minutes, 6 seconds.
Now, was that a good score? Was that a bad score? We do not know.
Let's take a look at Windows. So now that we're in Windows, let's run Basemark. Trevor, let's start it off in 3, 2, 1.
And we begin.
Honestly, I don't think I'm going to expect too much of a difference in terms of the score, but I mean,
I have no clue.
we'll see.
Yeah, I have absolutely no clue.
All right, so what is our grand total, Trevor?
636.95.
And we got that score in 3 minutes, 14 seconds. So that's actually interesting. We got a higher score on Windows. However, Windows took slightly longer to achieve that score. And just for the record, before anyone says anything, yes, we have ran these tests multiple times, and this is the average at the end of the day. However, let's go check out Linux. So now that we are on Ubuntu, let's start the Basemark. 3, 2, 1.
Let's see what's going to happen here.
This is going to be rather interesting because the web browser, you know, it needs direct access to the hardware. And, you know, and when we talked about the hardware section and driver support, there's sometimes, you know, some issues with Linux. So we'll see how this is going to do.
Yeah, my opinion is this. I either think it's going to do absolutely terrible or it's going to beat it all. It's not going to be in the middle. I don't think it's going to hit like second place. I think it's either going to be dead last or ahead by a lot. I just don't know what it's going to be yet. As far as the actual test, it seems to be keeping up a bit. However, this seems slower. Maybe the longer it takes, the better in all reality. Because Windows took longer, but it was a better result.
All right, so the test is complete. What do we get, Trevor?
We got 612.66.
And we did that in 3 minutes, 41 seconds. So this took even longer than Windows and Mac. However, the score is, well, it is the lowest score, but not by much.
No. Like, this one surprised me. I thought we were gonna either like really lose on Linux or really win, but by a lot. This was in the margin of error, if you ask me. We do these tests a few more times on all platforms. We could probably see these numbers flip-flop a little bit. However, these are kind of our averages we were getting after doing these a couple times.
Yeah.
What I will say, though, is at least I equate this pretty much to probably optimization from the web browsers. I actually don't think we're seeing too much of an operating system performance issue here, which is great. That means no matter what operating system you're using, you're gonna have a really good web experience, which for the average consumer is probably 90% of what you do on a computer nowadays. So now for my opinion, I would say, kind of like I already stated, it seems like no matter what operating system you choose, you're gonna have a decent web experience, which is, again, very important to the average consumer. Even the work that I do, I definitely need a solid operating system. A lot of it can be done on the web, so it's really important to have a really good web experience. So ultimately, I'm giving all operating systems a lot of credit. They all seem to be doing great for hardware acceleration within web browsers. I give Google Chrome a lot of credit too for supporting Linux, and even just doing as good as it does on even Mac OS. Windows is always the baseline for everything, so I'm happy when a program really does nicely support other operating systems without too much of a performance issue.
And now for my opinion. Honestly, it's kind of very similar to Trevor. Across the board, I've had good experience as the end user with, Google Chrome and other web browsers, even like Firefox, which I haven't touched in a long time until I got onto Linux. So I give all the operating systems a lot of credit. They all seem to perform pretty well. So now comes the time where we get to score everything and see what operating system won.
Yep.
All right, so available browsers. I mean, pretty much across the board, you have the same web browsers all available. So on Windows, I'm gonna give it a 1.
Yep, I think
Mac
that deserves it.
Gets a 1. And Linux gets a 1. Now in terms of speed test, we saw all the speed tests, we did our testing, our benchmarking, and really across the board, all the numbers were relatively similar. Windows did get the advantage here, so it's gonna get a 1, but macOS wasn't far off, so it's gonna get a 1. And even Linux is going to get a 1. Now comes time for what my opinion was, and across the board, I've been happy with my web browser experience. So I'm giving every operating system a 1. But Trevor, what's your opinion here?
So, look, here's the deal. Though I am very happy with the experience of all platforms, what I will say is this. I feel like Windows, of course, is going to get the 1 because I think a lot of these web browsers are originally developed on Windows and they're kind of migrated to other platforms. That's why we probably saw a little bit of a performance boost there. However, with that being said, Mac OS, I think, that was a perfectly fine result. But this is where I know I'm going to get the Linux haters hating me. But I was a little let down by the Linux result because I actually thought it was going to win the whole thing. Because having a lightweight operating system not holding anything back, I don't know if this is technically Google's fault for optimization or maybe something to do with Linux. I don't know. We really don't have enough testing we can do even to really determine that. But because I was a little let down, I'm just going by my opinion, I'm going to have to put a 0. Because it let me down personally. I was really hoping it was going to win, just being a lightweight operating system.
That is
And
very
let's be honest here, Chrome should be very well supported on Linux considering Chrome OS is based on Linux. So I had a lot of expectations that I felt just were not met.
Well, that is rather unfortunate to hear for the Linux people, but
sorry.
So this is our grand finale here. Windows got a 10. Mac OS got a 10. Linux, unfortunately, got
it got a 9. It got a 9, okay? Like, that isn't the worst thing in the world.
No, but it's just not the best. Anyway, guys, that is the browser test in Mac versus Windows versus Linux. Stay tuned for more comparisons between all these operating systems. We'll catch you in the next one.
See you guys.